Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alex Polkinghorn, and I'm the Executive Digital Editor of Maine Magazine and Maine Home and Design. Thank you so much to all of you viewing this virtually and for joining us on our second Staycation Live panel. As a little background, we launched a daily email called Staycationland on March 30th in response to the rapid changes occurring as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. The newsletter's purpose was and is to share rich content from Maine Magazine that provides a daily dose of entertainment, news, resources, and most importantly right now, positivity and respite. We'd be so thrilled if you signed up for these emails, the link to which can be found in the YouTube description under this video. As soon as we realized that we would have to shift from in-person events, we decided to take the concept of Staycationland and turn it into a virtual panel. Our goal with these is to talk with great panelists and experts about how we can enjoy and help our state in these very, very uncharted times. None of us is a nerd from the challenges that we're going to be facing over the next several months, but we're really optimistic about all the things that we can do, both large and small, to contribute meaningfully to Maine's economy, its well-being, and to buoy the industries that we all love and care about. Today, we're talking with 6 experts from the tourism and hospitality sectors about how we can safely and responsibly support our local businesses. We have representatives from the hotel, restaurant, retail, real estate industries here to shed light on what we know is a very front of mind topic. We also want to give a big thanks to our CEO, Sandy Spalding, for pulling all of these great people together. I'd also like to take a moment to thank our presenting sponsor of Staycationland Live, Pipe Chevrolet. And we'd also like to extend our gratitude to the Portland Chamber of Commerce and Main Street Design Company for their support of the panel. Lastly, I'm very excited to announce not only today's moderator, but Maine Magazine's newest columnist, Bill Green, formerly of Bill Green's Maine. Starting in our July issue, which should be on newsstands and in your mailboxes in a few short weeks, Bill will be writing a regular column on how to live life in Maine to the fullest and enjoy it the most. I'll let Bill and the other experts take it from here, but thank you again for being here and enjoy the panel.
Alex, thank you so much for that introduction. I want to talk about Alex because she has such an impressive resume. 5 years at Vanity Fair, a year at Refinery 29, more than 2 at the New York Times Magazine, managing editor of the Wall Street Journal magazine. But most important to me, and I know Dawn and Steve are going to be impressed with this, she is Bud Levitt's granddaughter, making her Maine royalty to those of us who grew up here. And that's probably why she writes so well. Bud was a distinguished outdoor columnist for the Bangor Daily News and a legend among legends of the Maine outdoors. And I'm just delighted, Alex, to be working with you. So
likewise. Thank you so much. We're so grateful to have you all here, and I'm excited to hear.
All right, let's start with our panel. Give us a wave when I talk about you, Tina Hewett-Gordon, General Manager of the Nonantum Resort in Kennebunkport. And my wife says that a party takes on the personality of the host and hostess, and that is really true at the Nonantum. It's spectacular, one of our best resorts for sure. She's on the board of directors of Maine Tourism Association, Hospitality Maine Foundation Board, Kennebunk Beach Improvement Association, co-chair of Kennebunkport Promise, which I want you to talk about before the hour is over, past president of everything, and is an outdoor person, loves to kayak, bike, and skis at Sunday River. And Tina, we're going to try to be positive, at least at the top. And I thought you had a great idea. We were talking about one of the things that's been hurt this summer is the wedding industry. The Nonantum is a great place for weddings. And you've come up with a pretty cool idea that doesn't replace weddings, but certainly is something we ought to talk about.
No, absolutely. Thanks, Bill. And we've learned to pivot in this industry pretty quickly on a dime, quite honestly. And so in the wedding industry, we're looking at 50 or under. And so we've developed an elopement package as well as a package that's called Your Dream Wedding Part 1. And so those are all being rolled out right now because we have so many brides that had these big weddings planned for the summer and they can't get them. They're not going to be able to have them. So they're pivoting with us, doing something a little bit smaller. Some of them are either just getting married with immediate family, or they're going to do a small wedding this year and then have a big party next year.
Yep. Elopements they grew out of the pandemic, I guess. Steve Hewins, Hospitality Maine, since 2016. This is the nonprofit which represents the industry, hotels, restaurants, and other tourism-related businesses through educational programs, lobbying in Augusta. They have worked hard on programs designed to develop workforce right here in the state of Maine, such as Serve Safe, Pro Start, and also Hospitality Maine apprenticeship program. And Steve, I want to ask you about the news that's broken overnight that restaurants in Cumberland, York, and Androscoggin County will be delaying beyond June 1st. I'm sure
Right.
your phone's been ringing off the hook today.
Oh, yeah, no question about that. I mean,
How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I'm mixed. Obviously, we have a lot of membership, and they represent the entire spectrum of the industry, from people that are, slow to open because they're concerned about the virus, to people that can't open because they can't profitably do it, to people that are ready to open like immediately, and like everything in between. But the problem with the unfortunate pullback yesterday is that a lot of people are geared up to open June 1 in the 3 counties that aren't able to do that. That's Androscoggin, Cumberland, and York counties. And that includes things like, buying food, hiring back employees, setting up the tables to be distanced properly, buying the PPE and all that stuff. And to have that sort of taken away 3 days prior to the opening has caused a lot of angst. And, frankly, it's a difficult thing to kind of absorb.
Steve Lyons on the other side, he's the director of the Maine Office of Tourism. Steve's played a critical role in developing a tourism marketing strategy for the state of Maine, managing contracts for the state ad agency, marketing research firm, fulfillment, call center operations, and the website. Steve, what's it like working for the state of Maine today? How much input is the governor getting from the tourism office and your bosses? How's it working, and how is communication coming through, and what are you hearing from the state?
Yeah. Well, what we're hearing from the state is, we are the state, so.
I meant people of the state. I'm sorry.
So, what's happening? There is a lot of work with the industry sectors. There have been a lot of checklists that have come out for various industries. The restaurant came out recently, sporting camps, guides, all the different things. We've been working with industry representatives in those areas to help get their ideas for how we can get these businesses to open more safely. So it's been a real challenge to do that. There are a lot of, it's interesting when you look at this stuff, how much detail that goes into every single one of these industry sectors and how different they can be, with some very minor, even minor adjustments and changes that need to be made for individual organizations.
The big question that we've gotten, we've had a lot of questions sent into us, and a number of them are about the 14-day quarantine. Let's pretend it's June 1st. What's the status of the quarantine, and what do people need to know?
Okay. Well, the quarantine for June 1st, basically it allows non-residents, it allows residents to travel within the state of Maine. So if you're a Maine resident, you can travel, no problem, travel around the state. It also, so there's no quarantine required for Maine residents. With regard to non-residents or people from other states, you can quarantine in the state if you own a second home. So if you have a second home here, a camp, a cottage, a lake house of some kind, or even if you have a second home in a campground, like if you have a seasonal campsite that you rent for the full year, you can come and quarantine in that campsite for 2 weeks. So essentially it allows people who own property in the state to quarantine for 2 weeks. And after they've done so, then they can travel through the state freely like a Maine resident would.
Now, I'm going to ask a question from my sister. She has a second home in Maine, but once she gets here, she wants to go out and get a lobster roll and go down and walk on the beach. Can she do that the first 2 weeks she's here?
First 2 weeks, you're supposed to be staying at home. So you shouldn't be going out for anything except medical appointments, really. So essentially, essential services, even if you want groceries and food and that kind of thing, you would have to have that brought in, or you'd have to, order it and have it, have takeout or have delivered to your home, or have those things before you arrive in the state.
So bring it from out of state, or call your local store and say, I'll be at my house, bring it over.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Dana Moos is Director of Lodging and Hospitality Brokerage with the Swan agency of Sotheby's International Realty. Dana is a former inn owner, cookbook author, cooking instructor, marketing agent, traveler, and all-around foodie. Dana, we're going to have you talking about the real estate portion of this. Is the market changing? Is there stuff available for people, or what are you seeing particularly in areas where tourists frequent?
There's still quite a bit of interest. People are just waiting to find out when they can travel here to not only look at properties, but to a lot of them travel here to stay and experience Maine, whether they've been or not, and they know that they can't do that now. The interest has really not stopped at all. I get contacted by prospective buyers that tell me that this pandemic has almost been sort of the proverbial last straw for them. They think really the time for me to do something for me now. I mean, a lot of people have the dream of buying an inn, you know, and inn or even restaurants, and in a place where they've loved to vacation. So they're now saying, I really think this is the time to do this, and it's probably a good time. Some of them, I'm not the expert, but possibly a good time to move their money around and be in control of their investment rather than having it in the stock market or elsewhere. So, you know, I think that the desire is really still there. They're all just sort of, everybody's waiting to see, you know, what happens with tourism in general.
Well, I'm going to then jump to Merrilee Paul, general manager and owner with her husband of 50 Local, a great restaurant and bistro in Kennebunkport, features local food from farms and fisheries and makes a commitment to the community. With her husband, Chef David Ross, the couple, who met in Boston, although she's a good Kennebunkport woman, native, they decided to raise their children in Maine. So we've got just that kind of person. They came up here, bought a little place, made it a very tasteful, magnificent place. Once a hidden secret, now I think everybody knows about it. 50 Local, but now you're a business person and you need people walking around, I would think, Merrilee, and you're now unable to open indoors on the 1st. How you doing?
I'm okay. I don't know. I think I'm a hustler at heart. So
You're what, a hustler?
I'm a hustler at heart.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have somebody coming over today to help me with some outdoor dining options. We are Kennebunk. We're not Kennebunkport. So we don't have the luxury of ocean view, if you will.
Yep.
So we're looking at our quaint little town, which is very cute. So I can put some tables out there. We make really amazing cocktails. Our bartender mix.
Are you just waiting on business?
I'm waiting on business.
So you're gonna wait. Yep. Okay, and finally, Dawn Oaks, Sea Bags, well-known company. They take used sail and make trendy bags that everybody just loves in my family. He's a distinguished graduate of the University of Maine and went on to get an MBA at Harvard. After a great career at LL Bean, he took over at Sea Bags in 2013. Dawn, how's the small business person doing? What do you need for, everybody's saying, do you have a number that you hope to hit this summer, like 50% of your gross volume? I've heard that number thrown around some.
Yeah, I think that's realistic for this year, Bill. We started opening our stores in Maine. We have 7 stores in Maine, 33 overall, and we started opening 2 weeks ago, and that's about what we're seeing, 50%. Actually, Rockland the first week was flat with last year, which I was encouraged by, and it's really just hit or miss. But just across the board, the best news I've seen so far is Portsmouth right now is doing the same sales this week we did last week. So, 50% is probably realistic, but, we'd like to get back to last year's numbers if possible, but that may not be realistic this year.
So what do we think? Is 50% the number? And how do you feel we should go about measuring the metrics of getting open? And are there enough voices being heard? Is it being handled as intelligently and scientifically as we'd like? Well, where are we on that? Anybody want to jump in?
Well, I can, I suppose. I live that every day, all day. I don't know. All I will say to the audience, as people know this, is in February, we were on pace for our 14th straight record year of restaurant and sales growth. And in March, it hit bottom and has stayed there. The industry's 75% unemployment right now. As we know, many places are not open, of course, and soon, hopefully, will be partially open. As Dana points out, there's a lot of demand for Maine. She's seen it from the real estate side. Certainly, we see it from the tourism side as well. But, essentially they have no place to go. So the hospitality industry, 1 in 7 employees in the state, largest private sector employer behind healthcare. So it's a lot is at stake right now. And we're all cognizant of the medical issues and the health-related public health concerns and requirements. But I think the way that we kind of view it at Hospitality Maine is that the industry needs the opportunity to perform. And we put out guidelines. We helped write them for the state. And so I think we'd like to see the state give the industry the chance to perform. And we think we can do it safely and open responsibly. So I think that's the point we're at now. So I don't know what the numbers are going to be, Bill. I really don't know. It'll all be a function now of when we can get open and start seeing some visitors come back.
Okay. What can people do after they get here? They have to quarantine for 14 days. So we're going to rely on Mainers. Do you think Mainers will change their patterns and take advantage of a state that's not filled with tourists? We love tourists, but if they're not here, it opens up some opportunity.
Well, certainly we'd like to see the Maine residents, moving around the state. I mean, there's a lot to offer in the state. What happens is you've got a lot of people who live in, say, southern Maine who've never been to Aroostook County, and people in other parts of the state that have in other corners of the state. And I think there's so many opportunities for people to travel within the state that we'd love to see them go out there. I mean, how many people have actually gone out and worked with a registered Maine guide? How many residents have actually gone out with a registered Maine guide or gone to a sporting camp? I think, with sporting camp, most of their business is from non-residents. So I think people could learn a lot about how to rediscover the woods and Maine's natural resources through some of these organizations.
So, Bill, I'll jump in. For retail, we rely on foot traffic. And, we'd love to see the Mainers there. And I talked to my managers that have had their stores open. And in Camden, they were saying, we're getting visitors from Bangor and Augusta that say they usually don't come to Camden because it's too busy. Similar in Booth Bay. But up in Acadia, we were open last weekend. And the word was, it was horrible. It was a ghost town. She said 3 people one day and 4 people another. Thank goodness they bought something. And, usually you can't walk down the street. So it's really both, I think. It's a catch-22. It's great for Mainers, and I'm sure more Mainers will get out, and I hope they do, and go see these beautiful places. But if we don't get the tourist dollars, retail is no different than hospitality, the hotels and the restaurants. I mean, they're devastated, and our sales are going to be down because we need those same people and we need those same dollars.
Steve Lyons, what can the state do to get Mainers out?
Well, I think we're looking at the opportunity to develop an in-state marketing campaign to drive Maine residents to Maine destinations. We've had an ongoing social media campaign, that's sort of an inspirational campaign that's been running all along through our social channels. And so we're going to continue to encourage people to do that. And we've been talking with industry sectors about what's the best way to market to the Maine resident to get them to travel around, get out.
And the best way is market them.
And Bill, in the hotels, speaking for the hotel sector, it's creating packages for Maine residents and attractive rates for them, and also making them realize. And I think we learned this in your last staycation panel that the state is our playground, and so for the month of June, let's take advantage of it. And so because of that, that's some of the packages that we're spinning in, is telling them all the things they can do instead of the things they can't do.
Dana and Tina, is there all right, we have this love-hate thing going with people from away. We love the industry. We love how much they love Maine, blah, blah. We all know that. But on the other hand, you get behind a Winnebago and you're just about ready to, think I ought to put a bazooka on the hood of my car sometimes. Is this going to damage our relationship with friends who come here? You know what I mean? The Maine PFA thing, the Maine people from away thing. My sister, who's a Mainer, made her living in Massachusetts. She's mad. She's angry. People are glaring at her and she don't like it.
That's unfortunate. That's really unfortunate because, I'm from away. I've been here since 2004, but we have to remember these people are coming to try and enjoy the reason we love it here. So we need to be patient. We need to be understanding. If we need them to be here, we just have to, it's like Maine, the way life should be, just chill. It's just, I think we just have to accept it. Hopefully others will,
Are you sensing some of that though? Are you hearing? Yeah. Tina, how about you at the Nonantum?
Well, I mean, I think it's a delicate balance, Bill, as you say, because
Who's frozen? Me?
I'm sorry. Well, I think it's a really delicate balance of making sure that our away guests understand that we want to welcome them. We want to welcome them safely. Can I do a 30-second spin about the Kennebunkport Promise? Okay, so that good segue.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
What is that Kennebunkport Promise?
So this was a partnership that was developed with our town manager about a month and a half ago, and this was before all the safety guidelines and protocols had been coming out. And she said to us, asked myself and Deb Lennon, another innkeeper here in the area, to form a task force that would put together some guidelines and best practices, assuring not only our community members, but our employees as well as our visitors that we know what we're doing and we take opening up our towns safely. And so we put together a task force that encompassed all the different sectors. We had retail, we had restaurants, we had hotels, we had marinas, we had golf courses, et cetera. We all put together what we felt were our best safety guidelines and best practices for our employees. We started developing this, and then the guidelines started coming out. Then we decided we would form a promise that we would ask other businesses to sign. So we put together a website called kptpromise.com, and I believe other towns, and I think Steve could probably speak a little bit to this, is that I believe some of the other towns are working on this as well, so that when people from away do look to travel, they know that Kennebunkport is a safe place. When all the retail reopens on June 1st, all these people have signed this promise. They have a decal that they can put in their windows, et cetera.
And the promise is that we have met all guidelines for sanitation regarding the COVID-19 virus.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and in some cases, the Kennebunkport promise is a little bit more stringent than what the actual guidelines for the state are.
Yep.
Steve, did you have a point? Yeah, I mean, what Tina's done has been exceptional, and we've somewhat mirrored that at the state level. We sent an open letter to the governor, the Tourism Alliance, which includes Hospitality Maine, Maine Tourism Association, Ski Maine, and a few others, offering the same type of promise, because I think a lot of us that are looking forwardly now, and it's hard to do that because we're all living in the moment right now, but as you look forward, may believe that safety and sanitation and security are going to be reasons people want to travel. So it's one thing to have lockdowns and closures and things like that. It's another to actually encourage people to come back. And we think it's going to take that. And Maine has a long history in this. We've been involved Maine has been involved since the beginning of time in tourism in the 1800s, And so we have a long history of this, and people know that. And so now we just have to contemporize that game to where the industry, where the public is going. So I think a lot of people feel like promises like what Kennebunkport has done and initiatives to take this seriously as an industry is going to be what is moving people back. And so we need to do that. And I think that was my point earlier about having an opportunity to exhibit that, because I think people honestly believe that's what it's going to take to get people back.
Are you on the governor's task force about reopening?
No, I like my perch better.
Pardon me?
I'm not. I like my perch that I exist on now better.
Bill, our innkeeper is Jean Marvin.
Are you satisfied with the makeup of that committee, and how much progress are they making? Do we know?
They just started pretty much.
Okay.
I made light of that. I don't mean to make light of that. I know many of the people that are on that committee.
Yeah.
And so our input gets in there as need be. Jean Marvin, that Tina refers to, recruited me into my current position So I know Jean very well. And that woman has the experience that is needed on that committee. Trust me, she's got a very background and a very good voice.
Okay. So as of June 1st, let's go over what people from out of state can do. The summer camps are going to open, but it's going to be limited.
There's some restrictions. I don't know the guidelines for every single organization, unfortunately, because there's so many guideline sheets out there. But yeah, that is one of the things that is scheduled to open. June 1st.
I understand they're going to try to put the 50 and fewer and do as much as they can, social distancing and things like that.
Social distancing component of that is, trying to keep people in sort of grouping. So if you're the same people that are in one cabin should be moving around together as a unit, those kinds of things. There are a lot of guidelines go along with these things. I was on the committee to develop them, so I don't know the details exactly.
What's the best place to read and understand about those guidelines?
Best place to get all the guidelines and all the checklists would be the DECD website. So it's maine.gov/ or / I don't know what's a back or forward. maine.gov/DECD. That's the best place to get it. All the guidelines are set up there. There's also a governor's page, a page for reopening the economy, and that information is on there as well. And that's a longer URL. I don't remember the
Department of Economic and Community Development, though, DECD.
Correct. Yeah.
Can we rent canoes and boats? Can we go berry picking? Can we do that?
Yeah, those guidelines are all still being worked on for like canoes and kayaks and rental of units. You can certainly go hiking and biking and paddling and all those things with your own equipment. When you get down to rental equipment, then you have to look at the sanitary aspects of that and how you can keep them cleansed and clean and switched out between uses.
Well, again, I spoke with my doctor today, and he said that if this was interesting to me. He said that the Center for Disease Control defines close contact with someone, meaning you're within 6 feet of them for 30 minutes. And so he was working with a patient who'd been out of state and was trying to determine, what that meant, and talked with state officials, and that was the definition he got. Also, if you're in contact with someone who tests positive, you should be tested, despite the high false negative rate of 30% on false negatives. And you'll be defined as either essential or non-essential personnel. The non-essential personnel will go home and self-isolate for 14 days. Essential personnel for the next 14 days should be checked twice a day, should isolate as much as possible, wear their masks, wash their hands, and maintain social distancing guidelines. And he personally recommends what we all know, that we've been told for 2.5 months, and we've all known since childhood: wash your hands, social distance, and wear a mask where it's appropriate. I have a question about wearing a mask, because I wear it. Look at the flow I got going. You like that? I look like Dennis Eckersley a little bit, I think. I'm trying to say to people that I respect you, and I don't want to do anything that is deemed offensive. Is there a new set of rules for mask wearing? Anybody want to take that? Is there a...
I could speak to that. I guess to some degree. I think a lot of people don't understand what the protocols are, and are confused to some degree. Some people resist. I was up in Rangeley last weekend. I have a camp up there in Aquasic, and I was up there and I ate out twice at 2 different restaurants and sat outside both times. And I can tell you that I was very closely watching the performance of those restaurants, and it was exceptional. I have to say, both restaurants were following the guidelines precisely, and they were very happy people to see customers. Yep. And the customers were happy to be there. It was actually an upbeat, positive experience. Now, this is, as you well know, in the western mountains of Maine, far removed from...
it is, Aquasic, you betcha.
I know. And, but I did see people that were walking around without masks and walking into stores without them. And, part of the concern for a lot of people is, what should I be doing? How do I go to a restaurant? The details of which is part of what we're training employees of restaurants to be able to advise customers. You're supposed to walk into a restaurant with a mask or a face covering, and then when you sit down, you can take it off, and that's the protocol.
Yeah.
And there are many things that restaurant employees have to do And then we're training them. We built a course with Eastern Maine Community College to train people on the governance checklist. So those are kind of more examples of how I think the industry is trying to respond. We launched the thing Monday. We've had almost 1,000 take the test and pass it, which is a credential of significance. You know, it's a micro credential.
Steve Lyons, both sides, if there are two sides, there are probably 80 sides, but they're both kind of quoting science as being on their side. Is there a time that and to me, science is kind of what I think is common sense. You know what I mean? I mean, and so I wonder if is the state coming to a point where they're going to issue guidelines that allow us to more or less use common sense, or will it be kind of dictated to? That's a harsher question I want to ask, but you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the state is looking, you know, certainly we recognize that this difficult time for the business community as a whole, and we want to do things to continue to get people to work and get the businesses open as soon as possible. With regard to, you know, the guidelines, I mean, you know, I think that people, you know, we are working very hard to get, you know, an alternative to the quarantine, which seems to be, you know, one of the biggest issues. And I'm optimistic we're going to have something fairly soon. And when, you know, it's that balance between, you know, health, you know, public health and economics, it's really a strain. And I know every day the state is working very hard with, you know, with a group of people trying to come up with what's that balance? How do you walk that fine line? You know, we are looking for alternatives so that when quarantine finally, you know, is lifted, or even if quarantine isn't lifted, there are ways that people can travel here safely if they follow certain alternatives, like advanced testing, like the governor has talked about, you know, other pledges, like, you know, was being discussed here earlier. Those kinds of things are all being looked at right now.
Let's get somebody from the hotel business in, restaurant business especially. I hate to say this, but my wife and I probably won't dine indoors for a while. We just, you know, we probably won't do it. We like to dine outdoors in the summer anyway. How much of your audience or what percentage of your patrons are going to come back, do you estimate? And what percentage of your wait staff is going to come back? Is there a workflow, customer flow problem? Obviously there is, and give us the inside information. Merrilee, we haven't heard much from you. Jump on that for me, would you?
For us, we've been here for 10 years and we're year round and we're dinner only. I had a meeting 2 days ago with all of our staff. Everybody was coming back with the exception of one person.
Nice.
So everybody list of regulars, of guests that love us, that had made reservations for the next week that I now have to go and cancel. So people were ready to come back, employees and guests. Yes, yesterday was disappointing, but we will adjust, and we're looking forward to perhaps July.
And so that was a ding to, you'd spent money to get open, and then you couldn't open, right?
What's that?
You would spend money to prepare to open June 1st.
Yes.
Couldn't open. Yeah. Okay.
We got everybody back with the exception of one person who had just had a baby. So he was coming back in a month. And so I had no problem with the employee retention. Everybody was ready to come back and work.
Yep. What would you like people who are watching this both in state and out of state to know, Merrilee?
Boy. I mean, I am in just one business in the state that's, you know, facing challenges, and everybody is feeling this. So I don't feel like I'm standing alone. I just think if we all support each other and take care of each other and do what makes us feel safe and healthy, we'll be okay. I've been here for a long time. I'm fortunate that I have that, and I worry about the restaurant industry as a whole now moving forward, because we're not people of means, and a lot of us enjoy drinks and other things, and we live paycheck to paycheck. So this is a life that is sometimes not financially comfortable. And a lot of people in my industry need to go to work for their mental health.
Well, and that's the thing about opening trails and opening parks, physical and mental health, are affected by that. Dana, how about you? What would you like people to know as you gallivant around Maine?
Yeah, from the innkeepers that I've spoken with, they're going to be so cautious. I mean, from staff to owners, they're just, whether it's a hotel or a small inn where an owner lives in the same house, they're going to be so careful. And I think that, when you've got everything into your business, it's even more reason for them to be so cautious. And they want to get the word out that they're going to have that safe environment. They're going to do everything they possibly can. And in terms of getting Mainers to come stay, I know a lot of them I check in with to see if they're offering specials and what kind of discount. And I know in the industry, we don't like to talk discount, we'd rather offer specials. But in this case, the reality is we're trying to make it affordable for Mainers to come stay at these lodging properties and eat at restaurants. And if they can't eat inside, if they can do carry out, take a picnic lunch, and then go enjoy a lighthouse you've never seen, or go up to Baxter State Park you've never seen. I know locals that have never seen what I've seen, and I'm not a local. So they can stay a night, whereas sometimes in Maine, we have a 2-night minimum or sometimes a 3-night minimum in the summer. So now's the time to take advantage of just stay a night, because that innkeeper is going to appreciate you staying there that one night because it means so much to them, so they're going to be careful.
By the way, I don't think Baxter's open until July 1st. Is that right? Have they changed that?
I'm not sure. See them on the closed list, but I checked that this morning, okay. But you could be right. We'll have to check.
Maybe they've changed it, but Evan Sipikowski, who's the director, I believe had it closed till July 1st. And on our last panel, there's some discussion that they may change that and open it up a little bit earlier. But, it's a great time, especially for people who've never been up that way. I know people who've lived in Maine all their lives, and they've never seen Baxter State Park. They've never climbed, but never seen Mount Katahdin. And one of them is Chris Cassidy, who's commanding the space station right now. He's never stood on the ground and seen Mount Katahdin, although he's flown over it 6,000 times. Steve, you have a battle plan that you're doing, trying to get Maine open. Is Maine open? Is Maine open? Is it semi-open?
You talking to Steve Lyons here?
Well, yeah, I was talking to Steve Hewitt, but you spoke. So I'll go to both Steves. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, we do this sometimes. Get the Steve squared thing going on.
Yeah.
Well, our plan is, we had a marketing plan at the get-go, obviously at the beginning of the year, that was ready to roll. We had to pause that because of all the COVID-19. So, once this COVID-19 kind of blows over, and I'm not sure that's going to happen in the immediate future, we are certainly ready to go with our ad campaign to get people here, and get people back into the state and get marketing to those non-residents, So, from an advertising and marketing standpoint, we're ready to roll on that. But for the time being, we're going to have to focus more on how do we get Mainers to move around.
Yep. Steve. Yep.
I'll jump in on that because I appreciate that. And what most of us know is that we're rapidly running out of time. That, we're coming on June 1st next week, and July and August is summer for us in Maine. In our business in retail on these main streets, we're not like anybody else. We do half our business in those 2 months and make most of our profit. And it's even more exaggerated for others. So I appreciate the work of the committees. Last I know, I think their report is due in December. That's not going to help us this year. No. We need it sooner. You asked about is Maine open or closed? And Dana, you mentioned earlier the old tagline, which I love. And Steve, I hope you're bringing it back. Maine, the way life should be. That resonates with people. I wasn't a huge fan when the previous governor put the sign up, Maine open for business. I didn't think that was as good, but boy, right now, I wish that was the case because it feels like the sign says closed, and that's the message we're putting out there. And people are making their plans now. And, we want to give them these options that we are open. You can walk down Main Street and hopefully have a place to stay and a place to have dinner and a drink.
I Yeah, I would just want to echo Don's words relative to time running out. As we know, as we know in the industry, people don't book for tomorrow. They're booking. They want to book, some time out. And with the message being out that Maine's closed, which that is the message that's gone out, regardless of what we want or don't want. Many people have canceled. There were tens of thousands of bookings on the record, and I'm talking Expedia, Booking.com and Airbnb, any number of booking engines that have all had to cancel because of a quarantine that everybody knows needs to go. So the question is, when will that go? As Steve Lyons pointed out, there's no indication of that quite yet. I do believe, though, that there will be an alternative. I can't really speak to exactly when that alternative is. I think it'll involve testing. I think it will involve testing people at their origin, where they're coming from, so that they come here, not testing positive, but negative for the virus. And I think that some of the adjacent states are going to be allowed to travel here, similarly like Maine people are allowed to travel, New Hampshire, Vermont, and places like that that are really on the same trajectory as we are. So I'm pretty confident that that's going to happen. Certainly, I'm hoping that happens much sooner than many might think it's going to happen, because we need to build in a little bit of a lead time. And I also don't believe we're going to have droves of people from Massachusetts coming up here the day that the quarantine is lifted either. I think it's going to take some time. And even to your point, Bill, about people concerned about going out to eat indoors. Well, there are people in Massachusetts and in New York and Connecticut that traditionally come here that are also concerned about that. So I think the stance of the industry is pretty solid around this. I think we have to speak as a single voice. That's why the venue, an opportunity like this is important, because I think most people are hearing a similar message, is that we understand the concerns, we understand the needs, we need to get open, and we need to open right. And I think that's where we all are at right now.
Steve, I know you can handle this because it's kind of funny. Let me make sure that I can find the question. Someone wanted to ask, Rick Savage is the gentleman who owns Sunday River Brew Pub. He said, I'm opening. He's got a WWF wrestling name, Rick Savage. He got a lot of attention from Tucker Carlson, and he opened, but it was bedlam up there. It wasn't, it was a rainy day. They moved together. They wore MAGA hats. They were screaming. Why wasn't he arrested is the question. But I mean, that didn't help the cause, did it? Where
well, it depends. It depends on your perspective. No, it doesn't help a cause. I mean, we certainly wouldn't advise anybody do anything like that. I think that, you got a lot of media coverage, clearly, and put it stayed in not a positive light. So that's no good. Everybody has the right to do what they want to do. I mean, that's just what you can do. But it also illustrated the tools that the state has in this. And the one tool that they have is to pull a license. And that's what they did. And when they did that, you didn't hear from him anymore.
He stopped, yeah.
Right. And then he stopped, and hopefully, I think maybe he earned his license back, and he's operating, properly now, let's say.
The outdoor deck.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that would like to do that. So he's not, I always look for the canary in a coal mine, the early things like that. His view is not alone. A lot of people that have that view, and we need to manage, for the 95% of people that don't have that view. And, but, it's part of the mix, and it's what makes Maine, Maine. I mean, we got a lot of different, personalities.
Yeah, but what I see is most people will do what they're asked to do. And we're trying to do the best we can to get by up here. And it sure would be nice, but we'll do what's right and do what we're asked to do. Any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up? Did we cover what you were hoping that we'd cover? Did you get the word out to people who might come to your business or whatever about how they can do it or what they can do?
I'd like to just jump in real quick, Phil, and just let people know that we're in the hospitality business. We, of course, are first and foremost, we want our guests and our staff to be safe. But our business is all about sanitation and cleanliness. And so, by virtue, these are the standards that we have to be held accountable to anyway. So now we're heightening all of our awareness. We're heightening our cleaning product or protocols and whatnot. And we're welcoming guests back in safely. So we want them to come, we want them to stay, we want them to dine, we want them to shop. And so the answer is yes, Maine's open for business. It just doesn't look like it did last year. And it may look different next month, but we're open for business. So
So-
come and explore your state.
Come to Maine and elope, right?
Exactly.
I love that one. So don't forget, wash your hands, social distance, wear a mask. Great opportunity for Mainers to get to places that we often find crowded. Maybe there are some discounts and specials around. And as we say, we'll all get through this together. I'd like to thank all of you for joining Maine Magazine in this panel today. And if you want information, there are 2 state websites, maine.gov Center for, what is it, CEDC, and the governor's website where you can get specific information. And I appreciate you all being with us today. Enjoy the summer. It's getting nice here now.
Thank you so much, Bill. And thank you on behalf of State 23 Media to all of our panelists for being here. I think right now your insights and your thoughtfulness is really, really important. So vitally important. Thank you to everyone who came and watched. Your support is essential to what we do, and we hope to see you back soon. Thank you. Have a great rest of your evening.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.